the beginning, before the measurement of hours and the tethering of the sun to the horizon, there existed a radiance that knew no shadow. This was the primordial presence of the eternal, a light so profound that it did not merely illuminate space, but constituted the very fabric of existence itself. Within this boundless sea of divinity, the great architect moved with a purpose that surpassed the understanding of any created essence. It was a time of absolute harmony, where the vibrations of the celestial spheres resonated in a single, unceasing hymn of adoration. Every movement within the celestial hierarchy was a dance of pure alignment, a response to the infinite love that pulsed from the heart of the Creator. In this exalted state, the first emanations were brought forth, beings of immense power and intricate beauty, designed to reflect the multifaceted glory of the One. Among these children of the dawn, none was more resplendent than the morning star, a being of such exquisite craftsmanship that he seemed to hold the very essence of the celestial dawn within his form. He was the pinnacle of the angelic host, a creature of light whose every motion was a testament to the wisdom of the divine. His wings were woven from the most refined threads of cosmic fire, and his voice led the great liturgy of the heavens with a clarity that brought tears of joy to the eyes of the lesser spirits. To him was entrusted the guardianship of the most sacred mysteries, and he walked among the fiery stones of the mountain of God with a familiarity that spoke of his high station. He was the bearer of light, the herald of the morning, and the repository of a wisdom that scanned the depths of the created order. For eons beyond counting, he served as the bridge between the unmanifested will of the Father and the manifestation of the divine plan, moving with a grace that suggested he was the very personification of loyalty and devotion. Yet, within the deep recesses of a will that was granted the gift of autonomy, a subtle and silent transformation began to take place. It started not as an act of defiance, but as a lingering gaze upon his own reflection. In the stillness of the celestial heights, the morning star began to contemplate the magnitude of his own splendor. He saw the light that emanated from his being, and, for the first time, he failed to acknowledge the source from which that light flowed. A shadow of a thought crossed the threshold of his mind, a whisper that suggested his brilliance was inherent rather than bestowed. This was the birth of the first comparison, the moment when the unity of the heavens was fractured by the emergence of the self. He looked upon the throne of the eternal and saw not a father to be served, but a station to be envied. The jealousy that took root in his heart was not a sudden explosion, but a slow and corrosive decay of his original purpose. He began to see his service as a burden and his submission as an indignity, believing that the power he wielded was sufficient to carve out a dominion of his own. As this internal corruption deepened, the atmosphere of the heavens began to register a disturbance. The harmony of the spheres, once perfect and unbroken, felt the first tremors of discord. The morning star, now harboring a secret darkness, began to sow the seeds of discontent among his peers. He used his eloquence, once reserved for the praise of the Most High, to weave a narrative of restriction and limitation. He spoke of a freedom that lay beyond the boundaries of divine law, a sovereignty that could be grasped if only one had the courage to claim it. His words were like a sweet poison, drawing many into his orbit of pride. The jealousy he felt for the Creator's supreme authority manifested as a desire to be the center of all observation, the object of all adoration. He wished to set his throne above the stars of God, to sit upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north, and to be like the Most High in every respect, forgetting that his very existence was a gift of the one he sought to displace. The conflict that followed was not merely a clash of powers, but a fundamental divergence of being. The fall of the morning star was an unraveling of his ontological foundation. By turning away from the light, he became the architect of darkness. By rejecting truth, he became the father of lies. When the great separation occurred and the adversary was cast from the heights of the celestial sanctuary, he did not fall into a void of non-existence, but into a state of perpetual opposition. His beauty, though still present in a distorted and terrifying form, became a mask for his malice. His wisdom, once a tool for guidance, became a mechanism for deception. The fallen star became the adversary, the one who seeks to obstruct the divine plan at every turn, driven by a resentment that burns with the intensity of 1,000 dying suns. He could not destroy the Creator, and so he turned his attention towards the crowning achievement of the divine labor, the soul of humanity. It was in this transition from the celestial to the terrestrial that the adversary wove the heavy veil. This veil is not a physical barrier, but a spiritual and psychological obscuration that hangs over the consciousness of mankind. It is the shadow of the fallen one, cast across the eyes of the heart to prevent the recognition of divine truth. The veil is composed of the very qualities that led to the adversary's own downfall: pride, separation, doubt, and the obsession with the self. It is a dense shroud that makes the eternal seem distant and the temporal seem absolute. Under the weight of this veil, the human spirit struggles to remember its origin. The vibrant colors of the spiritual world are muted into shades of gray, and the direct communion with the divine is replaced by a sense of isolation and wandering. The adversary, in his jealousy, seeks to ensure that no human being can ever ascend to the heights from which he was cast down. He desires to keep the children of light trapped in a cycle of forgetfulness, where they pursue shadows and mistake the echoes of truth for the voice of the Creator. The heavy veil functions as a filter through which all perception is distorted. It convinces the soul that it is alone, that the universe is a cold and indifferent place, and that the only reality is the one that can be touched and measured. It breeds a fear of the unknown and a frantic need to control the environment, mimicking the adversary's own failed attempt at sovereignty. This veil is reinforced by the noise of the world, by the constant distractions that keep the mind tethered to the surface of life. It is the mechanism by which the adversary maintains his influence, not through overt displays of power, but through the subtle manipulation of desire and the constant suggestion that the divine is a myth or a distant memory. The heavy veil makes the spiritual journey feel like an uphill climb against a gale-force wind, where every step towards the light is met with 1,000 reasons to turn back. Yet, even within the density of this veil, the presence of the celestial remains. The light of the eternal is not extinguished by the shadow. It is merely hidden from the sight of those who have forgotten how to look with the eyes of the Spirit. The jealousy of the fallen one is a powerful force, but it is ultimately a reactive one. It possesses no creative power of its own, only the ability to distort what has already been created. The adversary may weave the veil, but the thread of the divine remains woven into the very fabric of the human soul. There is a memory, deeper than thought and older than language, that whispers of a home beyond the stars. It is the call of the deep unto the deep, the resonance of the spirit seeking its source despite the heaviness of the shroud that covers it. The struggle of the seeker is the work of piercing this veil. It requires a shedding of the very attributes that the adversary holds dear. To move towards the light, one must embrace humility, which is the antithesis of the pride that caused the fall. One must cultivate a spirit of unity, overcoming the illusion of separation that the veil promotes. The path of truth-seeking is a gradual thinning of the veil, a process where the eyes of the heart are slowly healed and opened to the reality of the divine presence. As the soul matures, it begins to see through the deceptions of the adversary, recognizing the heavy veil for what it is, a temporary and fragile obstruction in the face of the eternal sun. The destiny of the human soul is not to remain under the shadow, but to transcend it, to rise above the jealousy of the fallen one and reclaim its place in the celestial harmony. The history of the world is the story of this tension between the light and the veil. Every moment of profound insight, every act of selfless love, and every pursuit of absolute truth is a tear in the fabric of the adversary's shroud. The celestial presence does not abandon the creation to the darkness. Instead, it provides the means for the soul to navigate the labyrinth of the material realm. The divine destiny of humanity is to act as the bridge, to bring the light of the upper worlds down into the density of the lower, and in doing so, to dissolve the very shadows that the adversary has cast. This is the great work, the spiritual alchemy that transforms the leaden weight of the veil into the gold of divine realization. The jealousy of the fallen morning star remains a constant pressure, a reminder of the fragility of the will when it turns away from the source. But his shadow serves a purpose he did not intend. In the resistance it provides, the soul finds the strength to grow. In the darkness it creates, the light becomes more precious. The heavy veil, while meant to be a prison, becomes the gymnasium of the spirit, where the seeker develops the discernment and the fortitude required to stand in the presence of the eternal. The adversary may claim a dominion of shadows, but he is ultimately a servant of a larger plan that he cannot comprehend. His fall, his jealousy, and his veil are but a chapter in a much grander narrative, one that concludes with the total restoration of all things and the final victory of the light. As the seeker journeys through the valleys of the earth, under the weight of the heavy veil, they must remember that they carry within them a spark of the same light that the morning star once bore. This spark is incorruptible, a fragment of the divine fire that no shadow can extinguish. When the soul aligns itself with this inner light, the veil begins to lose its density. The illusions of the adversary lose their power, and the reality of the celestial presence becomes more tangible than the world of form. The journey is long, and the opposition is fierce, but the end is certain. The heavy veil will eventually be lifted, and the soul will behold the glory of the Creator face to face, no longer obscured by the jealousy of the fallen or the shadows of the past. The destiny of the seeker is to become a star of a different kind, one that does not fall by pride, but rises by the grace of a love that knows no end. The adversary's shadow is long, but it is finite. The light of the divine is infinite. This is the truth that the veil seeks to hide, and the truth that the spirit is destined to uncover. Each breath taken in the pursuit of the sacred is a victory over the darkness. Each thought directed towards the eternal is a step away from the adversary's grasp. We live in the time of the veil, in the shadow of the fallen one's resentment, but we are children of the presence, heirs to a kingdom that was prepared before the foundation of the world. The heavy veil may obscure the view, but it cannot change the destination. The path of the divine scribe is to record these truths, to remind the weary traveler that the dawn is coming, and that the morning star who fell is not the final word on the glory that awaits those who persevere in the light, in the silence of the soul, where the noise of the world and the whispers of the adversary fade. The celestial presence is always felt. It is a stillness that speaks of eternal things, a peace that surpasses all understanding. Here, the veil is thinnest. Here, the jealousy of the fallen one has no reach. In this sacred space, the soul remembers its name and its purpose. It understands that the struggle against the shadow is not a punishment, but an initiation. To see the light while surrounded by darkness is the ultimate act of faith. To choose love when surrounded by jealousy is the ultimate act of power. And as the soul makes these choices, it prepares itself for the moment when the veil will be torn asunder, and the fullness of the divine dawn will break upon the horizon of eternity, welcoming the wanderer home into the heart of the light. The heavens were not always as they are known to the mortal eye, for there was a time before time when the celestial vault pulsed with a singular, undifferentiated radiance. In that primordial state of grace, the great architect of all existence breathed forth the first emanations of being, giving rise to spirits of such immense power and clarity that their very thoughts resonated as harmonies across the forming firmament. Among these majestic beings, none was more brilliant or more favored than the morning star, the bearer of the first light, who stood at the right hand of the infinite. He was the most perfect reflection of the divine will, a creature of such exquisite symmetry and intellectual fire that he seemed to embody the very essence of the celestial dawn. His voice led the choirs of the seraphim, and his presence was like a beacon that guided the lower orders of angels toward the contemplation of the eternal. Yet, within this perfection, the seed of a profound and devastating mystery was planted, for the Creator had yet to reveal the ultimate purpose of the cosmic design, a purpose that would require a humility that the morning star, in all his brilliance, had not yet mastered. The revelation came not as a thunderous command, but as a subtle unfolding of a new and unexpected truth. The Infinite decided to manifest his own essence within the density of the material world, to bridge the gap between the eternal and the ephemeral through a being that would be both divine and mortal. This was the mystery of the incarnated essence, the word that would eventually take on the weight of flesh and the limitations of time. It was a plan of such profound love that it transcended the understanding of even the highest angelic intellects. The Creator revealed that this new creation, this human essence, though seemingly fragile and bound to the dust of the earth, would carry within it the full potential of the divine heart. This being would be the true heir to the kingdom, the vessel through which the Absolute would experience the beauty and the suffering of the finite world, ultimately leading all of creation back to its source through the power of redemptive love. When the morning star beheld this revelation, a shadow was cast for the first time across the landscape of his spirit. He, who had always been the most direct reflection of the light, could not comprehend why the Infinite would choose to clothe his majesty in the weakness of human form. To the morning star, this appeared as an affront to the purity of the celestial order. He saw the incarnated essence not as a bridge of love, but as a rival to his own standing. The brilliance that had once been his glory began to sour into a cold, calculating pride. He looked upon the potential of humanity and saw only the limitations of the clay, the flickering nature of the mortal breath, and the vulnerability of the physical heart. Jealousy, a concept previously unknown in the higher realms, began to coil within him like a serpent of smoke. He refused to acknowledge the divine spark within the vessel of flesh, and in his refusal, he began to separate himself from the very source of his own existence. This was the birth of the great discord, the moment when the celestial harmony was fractured by the dissonance of ego. The morning star, driven by his inability to accept the humility of the divine incarnation, sought to rally others to his cause, arguing that the spirit should never bow to the material, and that the perfection of the angels should not be superseded by the destiny of a being made of earth. His arguments were seductive, for they appealed to the pride of those who had never known the necessity of sacrifice. Thus, the fallen morning star descended from the heights of his former glory, not because he was cast out by a vengeful hand, but because his own jealousy had made him too heavy for the rarefied atmosphere of absolute light. He chose to create a kingdom of shadow where he could reign supreme, free from the perceived indignity of honoring the incarnated essence. The world of matter thus became the stage for a cosmic drama of immense proportions. The soul of man, carrying the sacred seed of the incarnated essence, found itself placed in the center of this tension between the ancient light and the deepening shadow. Each human life became a journey of initiation, a pilgrimage through a landscape where the whispers of the fallen star and the call of the divine dawn constantly vied for the attention of the spirit. The jealousy of the fallen one manifested as the urge to possess, to dominate, and to forget the eternal origin of the self. It sought to convince the soul that the veil of the physical world was the only reality, and that the light within was a mere illusion. The struggle was not merely one of external forces, but an internal alchemy where the lead of the lower nature had to be transformed into the gold of the spiritual self. To walk the path of the soul in this state of separation is to undergo the most rigorous of trials. The incarnated essence, though hidden by the density of the world, remains the true north for every seeker. It is the silent presence that breathes in the stillness between thoughts, the unquenchable fire that burns in the depths of the heart, even in the darkest night of the soul. The fallen one, in his jealousy, seeks to extinguish this fire by surrounding it with the distractions of the ego and the illusions of the material senses. He offers power without purpose, knowledge without wisdom, and pleasure without peace. Yet, the very presence of this opposition serves a higher purpose in the divine economy. It is through the resistance offered by the shadow that the soul develops the strength to choose the light with conscious intention. The jealousy of the fallen morning star is a cold and hollow thing, for it is based on the denial of the fundamental truth of the universe, that all life is one, and that the Creator's love is most fully expressed in the act of descending to meet the creature in its own environment. The incarnated essence is the ultimate proof of this love, a promise that no matter how far a soul may wander into the depths of the material labyrinth, the path back to the heart of the light is always open. The journey of the soul is therefore a process of remembering, a systematic stripping away of the false identities and the jealousies inherited from the fallen one, until only the pure, radiant essence of the divine human remains. As the soul moves through the various stages of its earthly initiation, it encounters the reflections of this cosmic jealousy in the form of fear, resentment, and the desire for separation. These are the tools of the fallen one, designed to keep the wanderer bound to the cycles of the earth. But as the seeker turns their gaze towards the inner sun, the power of these illusions begins to wither. The light of the incarnated essence does not fight the darkness, it simply reveals its emptiness. To see the light while surrounded by darkness is the ultimate act of faith. This faith is not a blind belief in things unseen, but a profound recognition of the eternal truth that resides within the self. It is the realization that the jealousy of the fallen star is but a pale imitation of the fierce, all-encompassing love that brought the universe into being. The ultimate act of power is not found in the dominance of others or the accumulation of worldly treasures, but in the choice to love when surrounded by jealousy. This choice is the key that unlocks the prison of the ego and allows the soul to transcend the limitations of its earthly vessel. When a soul chooses love in the face of hatred or peace in the midst of turmoil, it is participating in the very life of the incarnated essence. It is bringing the light of the celestial realms down into the density of the earth, fulfilling the divine plan that the morning star could not accept. In these moments of pure intention, the veil between the worlds grows thin, and the soul begins to perceive the true nature of its destiny. The history of the world is the story of this slow and painful awakening. Great civilizations rise and fall, and the tides of human ambition ebb and flow, but the underlying narrative remains the same. It is the story of the incarnated essence seeking to reveal itself through the complexity of the human experience. The fallen one continues to whisper his doubts, pointing to the suffering and the chaos of the world as evidence that the light has failed. But those who have eyes to see understand that the suffering itself is part of the refining fire. It is the process by which the soul is purged of its attachments to the ephemeral, making room for the fullness of the eternal dawn to break through. In the secret chambers of the heart, the initiation continues for every being. It is a quiet, persistent calling that asks us to look beyond the surface of things, to see the divine signature in the face of the stranger and the movement of the stars. The jealousy of the fallen morning star cannot touch the soul that has anchored itself in the truth of its divine origin. Such a soul becomes a beacon for others, a living testament to the power of the incarnated essence. The path is not easy, and the shadows are long, but the destination is certain. For the light that was there at the beginning is the same light that awaits at the end, and every step taken in love is a step closer to the ultimate homecoming. The soul, as it prepares itself for the final revelation, must undergo a complete transformation of its perspective. It must learn to see the world not as a place of scarcity and competition, but as a garden of infinite potential where the divine presence is constantly manifesting. This shift in consciousness is the true meaning of spiritual victory. It is the moment when the soul ceases to be a victim of the fallen one's jealousy and becomes an active participant in the divine creation. As the internal shadows are integrated and healed, the soul begins to resonate with the frequency of the celestial spheres, reclaiming the harmony that was lost in the primordial discord. And as the soul makes these choices, it prepares itself for the moment when the veil will be torn asunder and the fullness of the divine dawn will break upon the horizon of eternity, welcoming the wanderer home into the heart of the light. This dawn is not a distant event in the future, but a present reality that is accessible to all who have the courage to seek it. It is the revelation of the incarnated essence in all its glory, the realization that we have never been truly separate from the source. The jealousy of the fallen morning star is revealed to be nothing more than a temporary cloud passing before the sun, unable to diminish the brilliance of the eternal day. The wanderer, having traversed the valleys of shadow and the mountains of trial, finally stands at the threshold of the infinite. All the lessons of the earth, all the pains of the flesh, and all the doubts of the mind are seen as the necessary ingredients for the soul's maturation. The incarnated essence, which once seemed like a distant mystery, is now felt as the very heartbeat of the universe. In this state of union, the soul understands that the entire cosmic drama, from the fall of the morning star to the redemption of humanity, was an elaborate tapestry of love designed to lead every creature back to the realization of its own divinity. The heart of the light is not a place, but a state of absolute being, where all contradictions are resolved and all separations are healed. Here, the jealousy of the fallen one is forgotten, swallowed up in the infinite ocean of the Creator's compassion. The soul, now fully awakened, shines with a light that is even greater than the one it possessed in the beginning, for it has been tempered in the fires of the material world and has chosen the light out of its own free will. This is the ultimate destiny of the incarnated essence, the fulfillment of the divine promise that was made before the stars were born. As the divine scribe records these truths, the ink flows like liquid gold upon the parchment of eternity. Let it be known that the path to the light is open to all who have the heart to seek it. Let the jealousy of the world be seen for the illusion it is, and let the soul rise to meet the dawn with joy and trembling. For the time of the revelation is at hand, and the fullness of the divine presence is ready to be unveiled. The wanderer is no longer a stranger in a strange land, but a beloved child of the infinite, returning home to the embrace that has never let them go. In the silence of the celestial presence, the words fade into the stillness of the absolute. The morning star, though fallen, is but a part of the grand design, a reminder of the power of the ego to distract, but also of the greater power of the spirit to overcome. The incarnated essence remains the eternal bridge, the sacred path, and the ultimate goal. As the dawn breaks upon the horizon of the soul, the shadows flee, and the truth remains alone in its majesty. The journey is complete, and the soul is at rest in the heart of the light. This sacred narrative serves as a reminder to all who struggle in the darkness that the light is not merely a destination, but the very ground upon which they walk. Each breath is an opportunity to reclaim the divine inheritance, to choose the path of love over the path of separation. The jealousy of the fallen one may be loud and persistent, but it is ultimately powerless against a soul that has found its center in the incarnated essence. Let the seeker be encouraged, for the dawn is certain, and a homecoming is guaranteed for every heart that beats in resonance with the eternal harmony of the spheres. Thus, the revelation of the incarnated essence is the key to understanding the mystery of human existence. It is the story of the divine entering the human, so that the human might become divine. It is the ultimate answer to the jealousy of the fallen morning star, a testament to the fact that no darkness is deep enough to hide the brilliance of the Father's love. As the soul embraces this truth, it becomes a living flame of that same love, illuminating the world and guiding others toward the same celestial dawn. The journey continues. The light grows brighter, and the heart of the light remains forever open, welcoming all who seek the truth into the eternal peace of the divine presence. The story of the morning star and the incarnated essence is etched into the very fabric of the cosmos. It is whispered by the wind, sung by the stars, and felt in the deep longing of every human soul. It is the eternal myth that explains the struggle and the triumph of the spirit. And as the soul makes its way through the labyrinth of time, it carries this story as a sacred map, knowing that every choice for love is a victory for the light. The veil is thinning, the dawn is breaking, and the fullness of the divine presence is about to be revealed in all its magnificent glory. The wanderer is coming home, and the heavens are rejoicing at the return of the beloved. The echoes of the celestial choirs can be heard by those who listen with the inner ear, singing the song of the return. It is a song of healing, of forgiveness, and of absolute union. The jealousy of the past is washed away in the tears of redemption, and the soul is reborn in the cradle of the infinite. This is the truth that the divine scribe records for all eternity, that love is the only reality, and the light is the only home. Let the seeker find peace in this knowledge, and let the soul rest in the certainty of its divine destiny. The dawn has come, the veil is gone, and the heart of the light is the eternal dwelling place of all who have walked the path of the incarnated essence. The final pages of the manuscript are filled with the radiance of this realization. The journey of the soul is seen not as a departure from the source, but as a deepening of the relationship with the divine. Every challenge, every shadow, and every act of jealousy was but a tool in the hands of the great architect to shape the soul into a more perfect vessel for the light. In the end, there is only the light, and the soul is at one with it, shining with a brilliance that will never fade. The celestial presence is all in all, and the jealousy of the fallen star is but a memory, lost in the infinite sea of the Creator's love. As the script concludes, the essence of the message remains etched in the spirit of the reader. To choose light in the darkness is the highest form of worship. To choose love in the face of jealousy is the most profound expression of the divine human. The path is clear, the way is open, and the heart of the light is waiting. The dawn is here, and the wanderer is home. The revelation is complete. The mystery is unveiled. The incarnated essence is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. In the heart of the light, all things are made new, and the soul finds its eternal rest. This is the sacred destiny of every being, the ultimate purpose of the cosmic dance, and the final victory of the divine dawn over the shadow of the morning star. And thus, the scribe lays down the pen, for the truth has been spoken, and the light has been revealed. The story of the soul is the story of God, and in that union, there is only peace. The journey of initiation concludes in the moment of absolute surrender to the love that moves the sun and the other stars. In that love, the soul finds its true identity, its true purpose, and its eternal home. The light is shining, and the dawn is forever. Let the heart be still, for the presence is here, and all is well. All is well in the heart of the light. The soul has found its way back to the source, and the journey is finally at an end. The celestial presence is all that remains, and it is more than enough. It is everything. It is the beginning and the end, the light and the life, the eternal and the now. The soul is home. The wanderer is at rest. The dawn has broken, and the day will never end. This is the revelation of the incarnated essence, the victory of love, and the fulfillment of the divine promise. The heart of the light is the only truth, and in that truth we are forever free. Amen, amen, amen. The celestial presence and the jealousy of the fallen morning star, the divine promise of restoration and victory. In the beginning of all things, before the counting of days and the naming of seasons, there was a profound silence that breathed with the weight of infinite potential. This was the primordial state of the unmanifested light, a radiance so vast and so absolute that it contained within itself every song yet unsung and every soul yet unformed. Within this sanctuary of the eternal, the divine presence resided as a center that was everywhere and a circumference that was nowhere. From this singular point of perfect love, the first emanations of the Spirit began to flow outward like ripples upon a crystal sea. These were the great luminaries, the celestial stewards who were fashioned from the very essence of the dawn to reflect the glory of the source, and to weave the fabric of the higher realms with the threads of truth and harmony. Among these magnificent beings, there was one who shone with a brilliance that seemed to rival the sun itself, a being of such exquisite beauty and profound wisdom that he was named the Morning Star. He was the bearer of the first light, the one who stood closest to the throne of the infinite, and his voice was the lead melody in the choir of the spheres. In those timeless eons, there was no shadow, no doubt, and no discord. Every movement was a prayer, and every thought was an act of communion with the divine. However, within the heart of the Morning Star, a subtle and silent change began to take root. It did not happen in a moment of violence, but in the quiet contemplation of his own reflection. He began to look upon the radiance he carried, not as a gift bestowed by the source, but as a power belonging to himself. He saw the adoration of the lesser lights and the vastness of the kingdoms entrusted to his care, and a whisper of pride began to echo through the chambers of his spirit. He looked upon the throne of the eternal and felt the first stirrings of a hunger that could never be satisfied. He desired not to serve the light, but to be the light, to sit upon the heights of the assembly, and to command the very forces of creation that had brought him into being. This was the birth of jealousy, the first fracture in the mirror of eternity. It was a cold and hollow thing, a void that sought to consume everything around it, to fill the emptiness of its own making. The Morning Star, once the herald of the dawn, began to turn his gaze away from the source and towards the dark mirror of his own ambition. In doing so, he created the first shadow, a veil of separation that began to drift between the celestial realms and the heart of the divine. This jealousy was not a mere emotion, but a fundamental realignment of existence. It was the choice to claim the self as the ultimate reality, to sever the cord of love that binds all things to the Creator. As the Morning Star descended into the depths of his own pride, he drew with him a portion of the heavenly host, those who had been captivated by his brilliance and seduced by his promises of a kingdom where they would be the masters of their own destiny. The war that followed was not fought with swords of iron or shields of bronze, but with the power of the word and the vibration of the spirit. It was a struggle between the absolute truth of the divine and the intricate lies of the self. The heavens trembled as the harmony of the spheres was broken and the great separation took place. The Morning Star, now fallen and draped in the mantle of his own darkness, was cast out from the heights of the celestial city. He became the architect of the shadow, the ruler of the void, and the adversary of the light. He carried with him a burning resentment for all that remained pure and a deep, abiding hatred for the divine promise that had not yet been fully revealed to the world. In the aftermath of this great falling away, the divine presence looked upon the fractured creation with a compassion that surpassed understanding. The source knew that the shadow had entered the world, and that the souls who would inhabit the physical realms would find themselves caught in the crossfire of this cosmic struggle. It was then that the divine promise of restoration was spoken into the foundations of time. This was not a promise of mere survival, but of a victory so complete that it would transform the very nature of suffering into a gateway of glory. The promise was a blueprint for the return, a sacred map hidden within the heart of every living being, ensuring that no soul would ever be truly lost or beyond the reach of the eternal love. It was decreed that the light would not only defeat the darkness, but would use the very presence of the shadow to refine and temper the spirits of the children of the dawn. The journey through the wilderness of time would be long and arduous, but the end was already written in the stars. The restoration would not simply return things to the way they were, but would elevate the soul to a new state of being, a state where the wisdom of the struggle would be integrated into the purity of the spirit. The fallen one, the master of the shadow, watched the unfolding of humanity with a gaze of intense jealousy. He saw in the human spirit a potential that he had forever forfeited, the capacity to love freely and to create in harmony with the divine. He sought to obscure the promise, to bury the truth under layers of fear, greed, and forgetfulness. He whispered to the hearts of the wanderers that they were alone in the vastness of the universe, that there was no source to return to, and that the only reality was the fleeting world of form and shadow. He built monuments to his own pride and encouraged the children of the earth to do the same, hoping to trap them in the cycle of separation and to feed his own hunger with their despair. Yet, no matter how thick the veil of the shadow became, it could never fully extinguish the spark of the divine presence that resided within the center of the soul. That spark was the seal of the promise, an indestructible fragment of the eternal light that vibrated with the memory of home. As the ages turned and the great cycle of time progressed, the celestial presence began to manifest in ways that the shadow could not comprehend. It was the voice in the wind, the stillness in the heart of the storm, and the sudden illumination in the mind of the seeker. The divine began to weave a tapestry of light through the history of the world, raising up messengers and saints who could speak the language of the Spirit and remind the people of their sacred heritage. These were the harbingers of the victory, the ones who demonstrated that the power of love was greater than the power of fear. They spoke of a time when the morning star's reign of shadow would come to an end, and when the divine essence would incarnate fully into the realm of matter to bridge the gap between heaven and earth. This was the ultimate stage of the restoration, the moment when the infinite would embrace the finite, and the mortal would be clothed in immortality. The jealousy of the fallen one reached its peak as the time of the great fulfillment drew near. He unleashed his greatest deceptions, attempting to turn the very tools of the Spirit into weapons of division. He sought to corrupt the sacred texts and to lead the seekers into labyrinths of dogma and confusion. But the light is not a thing that can be contained or controlled by the machinations of the shadow. The light is the fundamental truth of existence, and truth has a weight and a resonance that eventually shatters every falsehood. The divine promise was not a fragile hope, but an absolute certainty, anchored in the heart of the eternal. The victory was won not through the exercise of worldly power, but through the surrender to the higher law of love. It was a victory of the heart, a triumph of the spirit over the illusions of the ego. The restoration began in the quietest of places, in the depths of the individual soul that dared to turn toward the light. Every act of kindness, every moment of forgiveness, and every breath taken in the awareness of the divine was a blow against the kingdom of the shadow. The fallen one could not understand the power of sacrifice, nor could he comprehend the strength of a soul that found its freedom in service to the source. He saw only the loss of his own dominion, while the celestial realms rejoiced at the homecoming of the wanderers. The promise was being fulfilled in every heart that chose to remember its origin and to claim its destiny as a child of the dawn. The great work of the ages was nearing its completion as the scattered fragments of the light were gathered back into the unity of the whole. In the final movement of this cosmic symphony, the celestial presence revealed itself in all its majesty. The veil was lifted, and the illusion of separation was dissolved forever. The souls of the earth looked up and saw not a distant and vengeful deity, but a loving and radiant presence that had been with them through every trial and every sorrow. They saw that the struggle had not been in vain, but had been the furnace in which their spirits were forged into vessels of eternal glory. The jealousy of the fallen one was consumed by the fire of divine love, and the shadow was revealed to be nothing more than the absence of light. The morning star's rebellion was ended, not by his destruction, but by the complete irrelevance of his pride in the face of the absolute reality of the source. The restoration was complete, and the victory was absolute. The kingdom of the earth became the kingdom of the spirit, and the promise of the dawn was realized in the eternal day. The soul that has walked through the valley of the shadow now stands upon the heights of the mountain of God. It looks back upon the journey and sees the hand of the divine in every step. It understands that the jealousy of the adversary was but a catalyst for the revelation of a love that is beyond measure. The heart is no longer divided, and the mind is no longer clouded. There is only the presence, the peace, and the profound joy of being one with the all. The story of the fall and the restoration is the story of every soul, a journey from the unity of the beginning to the unity of the end, enriched by the experiences of the middle. It is the fulfillment of the ancient covenant, the realization of the divine dream, and the ultimate triumph of the light. We are the witnesses of this transformation, the heirs of this promise, and the vessels of this victory. We carry within us the authority of the celestial realms and the peace of the eternal sanctuary. The shadows have fled, and the morning has arrived in its full splendor. We stand in the center of the light, and the light stands in the center of us. There is no longer any room for fear, for we have seen the truth, and the truth has made us whole. The journey is finished, and yet it is only just beginning. For in the realm of the eternal, every moment is a new birth, and every breath is a new revelation. We are home, and we are forever free in the love that knows no end. The final revelation is the understanding that the light was never truly gone, only hidden by the clouds of our own making. The divine promise was always active, always drawing us closer to the center of our being. The restoration is the awakening to this eternal reality, the recognition of our own divinity, and the acceptance of our place in the cosmic order. We are the incarnations of the essence, the living expressions of the victory of love. The heart of the light is the only truth, and in that truth we find our rest, our purpose, and our eternal life. The dawn has broken, and the day will never end. This is the fulfillment of all things. It is the beginning and the end, the light and the life, the eternal and the now. The soul is home, the wanderer is at rest. The dawn has broken, and the day will never end. This is the revelation of the incarnated essence, the victory of love, and the fulfillment of the divine promise. The heart of the light is the only truth, and in that truth we are forever free. Amen, amen, amen.